Communication is so important for success, not only in business, but in life. And sometimes it doesn't work. I got to tell you a secret. Something I found just the other day, really good. A book called What More Can I Say? It's a new book out by Dianna Booher. And you can see I put a lot of notes in here on this, reading through it. And I've got a treat for you as we get a chance to talk with her. She's joining us right now here on Google Plus Hangouts from her office out there in the Dallas area. And Dianna, it is great to have you here. Thanks for being with us today.
Glad to be here with you, Terry.
You know, you did a fabulous job on this book. I love it because I love this book here, What More Can I Say? But also the subtitle, Why Communication Fails and What to Do About It. Now, you go through this. It's not the standard communication book that we would read about. This one goes really in depth. As a matter of fact, what I want to do is I'm going to go through and read just, different portions of the book, and then we're going to see if we can reach through and twist your arm just a little bit and have you tell us even more about it. Like I noticed over here on what page do I got here? I got page number 3 right at the beginning about some crooks are such nice guys. You talk about an episode that you went through where people hurt you and defrauded you, and they used 3 things here. You talked about commonalities. We trust people who we think are like us. Social proof. We want evidence that others trust in the person, organization, or idea. And reciprocity. We trust people who have our best interests at heart. And as you mentioned here, and you can see here, I'm circling this one, highlighting it, putting the star by it and everything on this. Really good. Tell us a little bit about that trust and how we can use it for good using those 3 principles of commonalities, social proof, and reciprocity, and how we can use that for good and what we need to be aware of in other circumstances.
Well, Terry, most of us think of persuasion as something bad, but it's neutral. And when you try to change somebody's mind, you try to change how they think, the first thing you have to do is foundational, is to build that trust. And we know all along, if you do something nice for somebody, they're going to do something nice for you. It's just natural. And you have to like somebody to feel that you can approach them, and you want to return that favor. So it's a neutral word, and you have to like somebody to want to do business with them. And you have to have their best interests at heart, and you have to trust them to have your best interests at heart to let them persuade you to begin with. And that is it's foundational. It's the first step, the first base to let them into your mind, to even entertain an idea that they want to share with you.
Yeah, that makes sense, and you show how to do it. One of the things I really liked about these, at the end of your chapters, you would go through and you'd really summarize what was there and talk about it. And I like here when you talk about that in each chapter. But now over here, you talk about something else on chapter 6. You give us 9 principles, 9 laws that are really good. And those of you watching this is a book you want to get and not just read, but study. Because there's information packed in here that can really help you, not only in business, but in your personal life. And one of the things you talk about here in chapter 6, you talk about the law of distinction versus dilution. And I like the way you said that. Matter of fact, I'm reading from your book here where you say, the next time you're faced with this more is better temptation, squelch the urge to splurge. Communicate more with less. Subtract to add. And that kind of, as I read that, I thought, she's absolutely right. Because I tend to want to put a whole lot more in there. I'm going to say more and more and more. But that's not always the reason and the way to communicate effectively. Tell us why that's true.
People tend to average rather than add. And what I mean by that, there's massive research on that I tried to convey in the book.
Yes, you did.
A sales call, and you try to give all of the benefits. People cannot they cannot possibly process all of those benefits. And so if you would just focus on 1 or 2 that are the most important, people are much more likely to buy. Same thing with putting together a resume. Let's say you have 3 key benefits or key skills that you want to get across and why this person should hire you or bring you in to consult with them. If let's say the person was ranking you 1 to 10, and you say, well, I can do this for you. Ah, that's a 10. I can do this for you. Ah, that's a 10. I can do this for you. Well, that's not important. Let's give them a 3 on that. They will tend to say, okay, a 10, a 10, a 3. All right, that candidate is a 7. And you walk away, and they rate you as a consultant, as a speaker, as a job candidate, as a 7. Whereas if you had just told them the top 2 reasons, you would have walked out of there being rated as a 10. So in other words, don't let them average you. They won't do that. Let them let them average just 2 things. The research is astounding on that.
Yes. Matter of fact, it was one of the things I really enjoyed about your book. You didn't just say, here's a theory, or here's something that I think is good. You went back and you showed detail. This was done by this study here, or this particular study. And that point, more than anything in the book, I mean, I love so much in here, but I thought that particular point was outstanding. That so often we say, well, our product is good because of this, and it also does this, and it does that. And what happens is it's human nature. We average it. Rather than saying, oh, well, they got 3 out of 5, but that one, ooh, I didn't like that one. I think because of that one, I'm going to throw it out, even though the others were good. And those of you that are in sales that are watching this, which is really all of us, because you're selling something, your ideas or whatever it is, that's an important point to be aware of. And look at that, law number 6. And so get the book, and you want to read and study that. I'm going to bounce over here to another point that I had that I really liked here, number 9, the law of distortion versus perspective, where you talk about some of the fact of studies done by Northwestern University, INSEAD, St. Mary's University, Dartmouth, suggests that perspective talking or just perspective taking will make you more persuasive than empathy will. And the thing is, again, you used the research of not just one, but several universities, and you talked about that. That was one that, for me, I thought, whoa, that makes a lot of sense. And I want you to explain a little bit more of that to us, of perspective taking versus being persuasive with empathy. I would have thought that empathy would be the way to do it. And you make a real good case in the chapter why perspective is better. Tell us why.
Well, everybody wants to be thought of as an empathetic person, of having compassion. And yes, that's true. But sometimes you do yourself and the other person harm when you are so empathetic, because you can't step outside that biases. When you are a perspective-taking person, you have a bias. You know you are leaning toward one option or one solution, etc. But when you have broader perspective, you can reason and see everybody's perspective and see where everybody, so to speak, is coming from. And you can do the best for everyone involved. Let me give you an example. A parent may have empathy for an adult child who has a college degree, and they are just not looking for a job, and they want to move back home and eat under your table, eat from your table and sleep in your bed and not go out and look for a job. And because you feel empathetic, you're not doing them any good by not encouraging them to take responsibility and stand on their own 2 feet. So you're empathetic, but it's not to their benefit. So again, empathy doesn't always serve you or the other person to their benefit.
Absolutely. And I think that is something that runs counterintuitive to the way we think. And that's why, again, those of you that are watching this is really an important concept. You might think, wow, I'm going to empathize, I'm going to care. And that's not the best thing. Looking at it from a different perspective and taking that is what Dianna explains in the book really well. Some of the other topics that, Dianna, that you cover there, the law of trust versus distrust, the law of collaboration versus monologue, talking with people. This is just packed with all kinds of good things. And the beauty of it is the physical book is very small, very easy to read. This is a book that you can read very quickly, and yet you'll want to go back over it and over it to let those sink into you. Dianna, you've done a marvelous job with this book. Any closing thoughts as we unfortunately have to leave? I'd love to go on for a couple hours with you on talking about this. There's so much good in here. Any closing thoughts that you want to leave with those that are viewing this now that they'll know about the book?
The key thing is that we persuade in anything that we do, whether we're writing emails, selling, making a recommendation, or talking to our children, talking to our spouse. And so I want to convey that it has broad application, and that's what I intend.
Excellent. Well, done. Well, the book again is What More Can I Say? Why Communication Fails and What to Do About It by Dianna Booher. This is available at a bookstore near you or an online favorite bookstore that you might have. I highly recommend that you invest in yourself, invest in your own education, your career, and really making life even better by getting this book. I'm Terry Brock. Dianna Booher, thank you very much for joining us today. Great to have you with us.
My pleasure.
And thank you very much for joining us here on this video. We will look forward to getting your comments on this.